Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this week's Vancouver real estate video, we are going to talk about the latest inflation numbers and what that might mean for interest and mortgage rates. Going to do a bit of a feet on the street perspective of what's happening in the market right now. Super interesting stuff going on. And then going to take a quick look at downtown Vancouver and what is happening with developers and development projects in that area. Real quick, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. I also make content designed to help you make your move in and around Vancouver. So if that sounds interesting to you and you wanted to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, so to start off this video, we're going to talk very quickly about the inflation numbers that were just released. Canada's CPI came in at 2.8%, which was much lower than what analysts were expecting right across the country. Most analysts were expecting around 3.1%. So the fact that this came in lower, very good news for the Bank of Canada, very good news for people that are hopefully looking forward towards an interest rate cut later on this year. So when this news came out, economists, the market was pricing in that by June or in June, that we would see a rate cut, and the chances of that happening, 75%. So, that 75% number, it ebbs and flows as we get new data on inflation, the jobs report. But needless to say, this is promising news for anyone who is looking forward to a cut this year. Promising news for the Bank of Canada that what they have been doing has been working. I think the Bank of Canada now is in a very precarious position because while it is good news that inflation came in much lower, we have a GDP, an economy that hasn't grown. Some would argue that we're already in a recession. And so Bank of Canada kind of walking a fine line, not wanting to see home prices and things escalate by cutting rates too early. But at the same time, the longer they hold off, the more, Canada's economy is shifting towards a recession if it's not already in it. So they're kind of walking this tightrope balance. What I would say for Vancouver real estate, so what this means for you if you're watching, considering buying, considering selling, market activity is already ticked up. We're in the middle of spring now, or actually we're at the start of spring. Spring market generally begins kind of end of February, early March. So we're definitely seeing heightened market activity already. I said in a previous video that when rates do cut, I don't think there's going to be this major entry into the market. And I say that because buyers are already in the market. They're already active. And one of the things that has really stood out to me, with my feet on the street here is that the resilience of today's first-time home buyer to be able to get into the market. Most of the work I've done this year has been with first-time home buyers. And, the first-time home buyer who is generally more challenged by interest rates, of course, and hence mortgage rates, they have become so resilient. And the persona of that first-time buyer is very different today than when I started in this business 8 years ago. I have had first-time buyers who are literally purchasing properties with cash. The amount of down payment that some of these first-time home buyers have, much more significant. They're not minimum down payments, oftentimes getting help from bank of mom and dad. So what's happening is, the older generation, perhaps they're willing gifts to their children a little bit earlier, so that their children can actually do something with it. And so what I'm finding is today's first-time buyer, rather than only shopping at, the 500,000 mark or 550, I have some that are shopping in the $1 million mark or 1.2. So, that first-time buyer is a lot more cash heavy, is a lot more equity heavy. And yes, of course, they are also subject to the rates in the market. But because we're already having this sort of activity, I do think that when rates cut, generally speaking, more people get excited about getting back into the market. So we will see a little bit more of that. But it's been quite fluid. I've seen listings hit this month. We'll talk about listing inventory in a sec, but I've seen listings hit, setting offer dates. And I look at these listings and I say, okay, are they truly priced to receive multiple offers? And I'm looking at some of them saying, no, I don't think that's a multiple offer price. I check in with the listing agent on offer day. They have 2 or 3 offers in their hands. So we are in the midst of a shifting market. What we saw from last month into this month is we did see prices increase for all segments slightly, but we're coming off of 4 or 5 months of declines and stabilization in price. Not suggesting that we're on an upward swing now, but there's some stability. March data is going to be very, very telling in terms of where exactly we stand, March and April, and here's why. New listing inventory, I talked about it in my last video. We're finally in a situation where we're seeing significantly more inventory hit the market. We're above 10-year averages for inventory, which we couldn't say that for over a year, 18 months, a long time. We were trying to scramble to get back to more average inventory levels. We are there now. As of making of this video, so today is March 21st, but data as of yesterday, March 20th, the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, we are now referred to as Greater Vancouver Realtors, about 3,900 new listings as of March 20th. Last year in February for the month, we finished around 4,500. And so obviously we still have 11 days to go. We're going to have a significant listing month. What I'm going to look for in the data that comes out is how much of this new listing inventory is actually getting absorbed. And if we want to look at how the prices might change, we're going to have to look into future months and see, how the prices might change based on March's inventory in April and May. So March is going to be an extremely telling month for real estate. Is the market truly as resilient as I believe it to be? If we continue to see prices go up in March, April, May, even if it's slightly, and that inventory keep increasing, that will just prove how resilient the Vancouver real estate market is in a challenging time with higher rates. And if we see those prices inch upwards, and then we see a rate cut in June, yes, I think prices are going to then make it steady flow upwards. It's not going to be like pandemic times, but we will continue to see that go upwards. So that's kind of a piece on where the market is today. So I like to always give a little bit of advice to buyers and sellers. Buyers, like I said, market is active right now. There are certain properties that are getting multiple offers that maybe wouldn't have a month ago, but I would still take advantage of this inventory. Inventory for a buyer, that's a beautiful thing, right? Less competition, but also less, you have more choice. You don't have to settle as much. You can pick something that you truly like. Sellers, have your listings stand out right now. March, the weather's getting nicer. It's very easy now to achieve better curb appeal if you have a single family home. Focus on the exterior of the home. What are people seeing when they first walk up to the home? First impressions are so important. If you have a condo or detached home, consider staging the home. If you're competing against all other properties in your condo building or similar types of products, you really want your property to stand out amongst the inventory. All right, so as mentioned, I want to talk about what's happening in downtown Vancouver, because what happens in downtown Vancouver really triggers a lot of activity that happens in these other, I'll call them sub-markets, even though they're not quite sub-markets, but Brentwood, Metrotown, Coquitlam, Lougheed area, Fraser Valley when we're looking at condos. Downtown Vancouver is undergoing quite a shift in terms of the product mix and the product type that is being brought in terms of housing supply. If we look at downtown Vancouver during peak periods, 2016, 2017, the reality is when we were in a market where there was heavy foreign capital entering the market, heavier foreign capital, bit of a frenzy, a lot of that capital was going into select areas. West side of Vancouver, West Vancouver, Richmond, and downtown Vancouver. And so at that time, developers were picking up sites and really setting a vision for, this luxury island, downtown Vancouver, essentially, with luxury condos everywhere. And so purchasing this land at very high values, expecting to sell these projects out at $3,000 a square foot, expecting things to not really change. So paying all these inflated prices, and what we're seeing over the last year is several projects going into receivership, foreclosure, before even being built out, plots of land, some having some, small amounts of income on them, but you have 1045 Harrow, which was a planned 55-story tower with some rental in there. You have I want to say 1330 Burrard as well, also entering receivership. That had plans to shift to residential. There's about a handful of them downtown in terms of projects that are never getting off the ground that are focusing on luxury rental condos. Now, one of the interesting shifts to talk about that's happening in downtown is some of these developers that have purchased these pieces of land. They're now shifting their thought process and going towards fully purpose-built rental housing. And this has typically been a type of product that developers have shied away from. But downtown, you're seeing it come up all over the place. You're not only seeing purpose-built rental, but you're seeing some concepts. For example, Bosa and the Listle Hotel are doing a rental/hotel, which I think is just a phenomenal idea in terms of a cash flow type of an asset. But they're going to redevelop the Listle Hotel to have that sort of a model. Bosa as well in the West End doing some rental, purpose-built rental there. So what's interesting for me to see is all of this shift towards rental housing. And you might ask yourself, why would a developer do this in downtown? Well, what I talked about is, having these development projects that are designed for luxury struggling to sell. Even those that did sell in pre-sale, there was, one last year specifically completed last year. A lot of purchasers were struggling to complete on them because the appraisals came in so much lower than what they paid. And then the developer is in a position where they're actually giving loans to help people complete. Last I checked, there hasn't been a sale in that building since the start of 2023. So even resale is extremely tricky on the luxury front. So obviously developers are watching this and saying, okay, we don't want to go down this road. Let's look at the rental model. So again, why would a developer do this? Guaranteed revenue. Okay, so the vacancy rate in Vancouver for condos, 0.9%. So when you have a rental asset, and this is on a small scale or a large scale, you're very unlikely to have that property sit vacant. You are going to get revenue from that property. So you get security in building rental. You also, for the developer, they pay less in amenity contributions for building rental versus what we call strata condos, market condos for sale. So the cost to develop is lower. The cost to develop is lower as well, because if you think about it, when you're building a luxury condo, that look, that the finishings, everything has to be at an incredibly high level, whereas when you're building a rental condo, more of a commodity type of an asset, you're not spending nearly as much on finishing this product as well. So you're able to keep your costs in check. Keeping in mind, these developers pay prime pricing for the land. So this is going to be something very interesting to watch, the shift towards rental heavy, specifically in downtown. What does this mean for you if you're considering buying a condo in downtown, or you currently own a condo in downtown? I think this is a great thing, because anytime all of the new inventory coming up is now going to be a product that doesn't really compete with your product when it comes to reselling your condo in the future, supply and demand, I think this does well for your condo's value. Now, downtown Vancouver in general has been more of a steady Eddie stable market. It hasn't gone up like what we've seen in certain parts of the Fraser Valley. It's just kind of hummed along and been flat, up and down actually over the last 5 years. But I think this is a good thing when you see, again, the supply around you is going to be a different style of product than perhaps what you currently own. That generally is going to increase the value of what you have. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video and learned something. If you did, hit the like button, because what that does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can also learn from it. And if you enjoy weekly real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next week's video. And lastly, again, if you're in the Vancouver area or the Fraser Valley and you want to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a call, or you can just send me a text. Give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever is easiest for you. I'd love to chat with you, but I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's video.